The 2024 Jeep Compass. I figured this was an important vehicle to cover because I want to potentially help a consumer who is actually interested in one of these vehicles. I want to present to that individual some important resources that they can use to research great deals and simply just how to research cars in general, along with determining value / quality and what to look for in a product. Because at the end of the day, cars are going to be the most expensive thing that an average person is going to buy. So I just want to make sure that you as a consumer is armed with the maximum amount of information possible. But first, let's cover what's new for the 2024 model year of the Compass. And if you haven't been keeping up with the Stellantis vehicles, the Compass got a refresh back in 2022. We got the new 2-liter turbo inline 4-cylinder engine in 2023, and this engine produces 200 horsepower and 221 pounds-feet of torque. And Jeep is claiming that this is the best-in-class standard horsepower and torque. But because of all these great changes that we got in the previous model years, the 2024, we don't have anything crazy going on here. We just have a new front grille, some new wheel designs, and if you go with the Trailhawk model, you get some new all-terrain tires. And that's pretty much it. And we have 5 different trim levels for the Compass. The base model is going to be the Sport, then you move up to the Latitude Luxe, Limited, and the Trailhawk is at the top. Starts at about $26,000, but add $1,600 to the price of all these vehicles because that's how much Jeep charges for the destination on a new Compass. And this is where I'm going to talk about the various resources and how you can potentially get the best pricing for a vehicle. I just want to share with you some of these research tips. So the number one place that you can come to is, of course, the manufacturer's website, which in this case is, of course, Jeep.com. You come here, and this is where they lay out all of their trim levels and the options and the pricing in great detail, and this is also where you can come to build out the vehicle. If you didn't know already, you can build and spec certain vehicles. You can check out what options are available with each trim level. I will say in the case of this Compass, Jeep does a great job in offering you a lot of great standard features. Like on the base Sport, you get 17-inch alloy wheels, you get cloth seats, you get a 10.1-inch infotainment screen with wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. And you get some decent safety tech as standard as well, like forward collision warning with cyclist and pedestrian detection, and even blind spot monitoring along with rear cross traffic alert. Now you go up in trim level, you can get things like front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. But for the most part, even on the base Sport, you get good features and good safety tech. And as I mentioned, on paper, that turbo 2-liter 4-cylinder is making some decent horsepower. It's made it to an 8-speed traditional automatic. Gets 24 in the city, 32 on the highway, and all-wheel drive is standard across the board. So on paper, that's a lot of things working in the Compass's favor. And again, I would try my best to stick with the Sport because the less you pay for something, the less you have to worry about depreciation. And I obviously would not recommend paying MSRP for these things. I would at least try to get 10% off MSRP. I'm not even joking. And another reason why the manufacturer website is so critical is because you come here, you can do further research on something known as incentives. Now, discount and incentive are not the same thing. A lot of dealerships will try to pass off an incentive like a discount, but they're not the same. An incentive is cash that you get from the manufacturer to drive down the price of their vehicles. In this case, the 2024 Compass Latitude has a $2,500 cash allowance. Latitude starts at $30,765, add $1,600 to the destination of that, but they are giving you $2,500 off for that particular trim level. That is really powerful to note. So incentive is what you get from the manufacturer. A discount is what the dealership is supposed to give you. So when I said try to get 10% off MSRP. That 10% discount is supposed to come from the dealership, and then they're supposed to stack that $2,500 on top of the dealer discount. So just to keep it simple, let's just say a Latitude is 30 grand. You get 10% off. That should be 3 grand off, and then 2,500 on top of that. You should be getting $5,500 off of the MSRP of a Latitude Compass. That's what I would try to aim for, because there's close to 13,000 of these Compasses available on dealership lots across the United States nationwide. The second thing I want to bring to your attention is safety, especially crash test safety, and IIHS is the best website to come to check how a vehicle does in a crash test. Fortunately, a 2023 Compass is a IIHS top safety pick. I mean, they have increased the difficulty of their tests since this vehicle went through its testing. However, for the most part, you should be able to put a family in here and not really have to worry. But IIHS is a good place to come to see how the vehicle that you are interested in stacks up in a crash test. The third thing I want to bring to your attention is Cargurus. You know, a lot of people ask me, hey bro, did I get a good deal on this vehicle? You don't have to do that, family. You just come to Cargurus and you can search used and new vehicles here, and you can search nationwide, and that's how I found out that there was over 13,000 Jeep Compasses available for sale throughout the country. And another thing I like about Cargurus is you can sort by which vehicle has been sitting on the lot the longest. Typically, when a vehicle is on the lot for more than 90 days, that's a vehicle that the dealership really wants to get rid of. So there's a better chance of you negotiating a higher discount and a better deal. Same goes for the used car research. Cargurus tells you if you got a good deal or a bad deal on the vehicle. You can sort by the mileage, and you can sort out all of the accident and the salvage title vehicles. They make it very easy to do all that, so Cargurus is definitely the best website to do vehicle research. And if you think some of this stuff that I'm talking about is obvious, that's because it is. However, it's obvious to you and me, but to the average consumer that doesn't know any better, they have no clue about cars. They don't know an engine from a spare tire. They just don't have a clue. Not everybody is an expert in cars. The same way you might not be an expert in jewelry, you might not be an expert in finding the next Picasso. I mean, not everyone is an automotive expert, but it's dangerous because everybody drives cars. Not everyone wears jewelry or buys Picassos, but the car is something that everyone has to buy, and it's pretty much the most expensive thing that the average person is going to buy, at least nowadays. But the next thing I want to refer you to is AutoCompanion. He's actually a broker located in the Washington, D.C. area, and he helps people to get good deals on vehicles. He's just partnered with a bunch of dealerships in the D.C. area. Jeep is one of the brands that he's partnered with. He does charge a broker fee, but if you sign up with my affiliate link, you can take some money off of that broker fee. But in this instance, that's not really what's important here. AutoCompanion does represent Jeep products. However, he doesn't have any Compass deals. Why? Because most people who use automotive brokers, they're typically leasing, and the lease payment on a Jeep Compass Latitude is about $500 a month, including tax, assuming you have perfect credit and you're putting zero money down. You can get the bigger Jeep Grand Cherokee for $500 a month. So he doesn't even bother advertising the Compass. Anyway, his broker service isn't really what I'm trying to refer you to right now. The main thing I want to inform you about is AutoCompanion's free leasing calculator, which I will have linked in the description box below. The reason why I'm showing you this is because this is a powerful tool, this calculator. I get that the average person who's interested in a Jeep Compass is not going to lease a car and most likely has no idea about leasing. That's not really the point I'm trying to bring to your attention. However, it is worth learning about leasing because if you don't already know, which most people don't, the way traditional car financing works is most banks, they typically front load the interest on a auto loan and a house mortgage, meaning you take out a 5, 6, 7 year loan on a car. The first 2 to 3 years, you're primarily paying down the interest. You've made very little equity in the vehicle. You're hardly making a dent into the principal, is what I'm trying to say. And this is why so many people end up underwater on their financed vehicles. However, if you were to lease a vehicle and you happen to get a low interest rate lease, like in the instance of this Compass, even though it's like $500 a month, the interest rate on the lease is only like 2%. So that's good. That means if you're interested in actually buying these vehicles and you want to keep it after the lease is up, instead of doing a traditional finance, you could actually just lease this vehicle, take advantage of the 2% interest rate. And what happens when you have a very low interest rate lease is the majority of the payments that you're making, it's actually going towards the equity of the vehicle. So if you did a 3-year lease, you've built up a decent amount of equity. In this case, about $15,400 in equity, and you've paid about $2,000 in interest and miscellaneous fees. That's really not bad. The average person who would have financed this thing at like 5 or 6 or 7% interest, they would not be anywhere close to $15,000 in equity. Also, another thing to note about AutoCompanion's leasing calculator, this also shows you the manufacturer incentives that I mentioned to you before. This is a lot more detailed, and these incentives change between the various regions. So this is really powerful. And also, if you are interested in leasing programs change every month. And that's why this calculator is so useful, because the interest rate, the residuals, the incentives, they don't stay the same. They change every month, and this calculator updates every month. So that's why I wanted to share with you this resource. And finally, I want to talk to you about value and why you would even consider one of these Compass products. Again, not everyone is a automotive expert. The average person probably just likes the Jeep brand, and they like how cute and small the Compass is, so they fall in love with it. Stellantis products, not exactly known for their quality. Really, with all the domestic brands like your Ford, your Chevys, and your Stellantis vehicles, their truck products are proper. They don't play around with the trucks. That's their number one selling product. They make sure they don't screw that up. So the trucks are great. Their full-size SUVs are great, like your massive 3-rows. They do a good job with those. They do a good job with the sports cars, and that's about it. All of these like lower end vehicles, pretty much garbage, not even worth considering. Honestly, the Japanese cars in this segment and in the lower tier of things, you're better off with the Japanese vehicle. I know that's the boring answer, but there's a reason why you see a bunch of them running around. They just perform better, they hold up better, and they don't feel like a tin can. I know to the average person, the Jeep brand might come off as being very cool, but there's really nothing cool about the lower end Ford, Chevy, and Dodge vehicles. However, I'm completely aware that if you've tricked off your credit, you don't really have much of a choice. It's very difficult to get approved by Honda Financial or Toyota Financial if you have like a 300 credit score. Whereas you pop into a Ford, a Chevy, or a Jeep dealership, they'll be more than happy to hit you with that 25% interest rate and put you into a Compass for like $2,000 a month. So some people, they don't have a choice. They have to get this because they're building up their credit. And that's why I wanted to go through the rigmarole of showing you all of these incentives and all these deals, because I get it, you're probably paying a lot of money in interest anyway, so I want to make sure that you're at least negotiating down the MSRP and you're taking advantage of the incentives, and you should be trying to get $5,000 to $6,000 off of MSRP on one of these Compass products. So I want you to at least win in that area if you're unfortunately having to pay a lot of money in interest. But really, things like the new Mazda CX-5, the new Honda CR-V, that was pretty amazing. I got to test that. Those are really well-made vehicles. They feel great to drive. Granted, they're not perfect either. Okay, the new base model Hondas, they come with the turbocharged engine. Turbo engines, not exactly known for their reliability. And Mazda, even though it's naturally aspirated for their base vehicles, they had to introduce that stupid cylinder deactivation, so they're not much better either. A lot of new cars with their complexity, with their turbos, with their sensors and their electronics, for the most part, they're all very disposable. And no matter what vehicle you're into, this Jeep, a Mazda, a Honda, a lot of vehicles, I wouldn't really suggest keeping it past its warranty period, which is typically 3 years. If you are going to fall in love with the vehicle and you are going to keep it for longer than 3 to 4 years, I would suggest paying up for an extended warranty. Just make sure it's a prorated warranty where if you cancel prematurely, you can get a portion of that warranty money refunded back to you. So hopefully you appreciate all of this information and all these resources, because this is simply things that most other people are not going to share with you, because most other people, they just don't care. There's no love in this world. They don't care if you get screwed over on a car. It doesn't matter to the people reviewing these cars. However, I love my audience and I want to make sure that you get the best possible deals and you're armed with the most amount of information possible. And the final thing I want to leave you with is use Google. I know it sounds like common sense once again, but you would be surprised at some of the basic questions I get where they could have easily Googled and figured it out for themselves. They don't do it. I get some really ridiculous questions in the comment section. So I am convinced that most people are not aware that a service like Google exists. You just come to that search bar, you type in your question, you get it answered. Because I know the next question that people are going to ask is the Compass reliable? Go to Google and type in Jeep Compass reliability, and there you go. You're going to see articles, forums, and resources. You can also use nhtsa.gov. That's a government website. That'll show you the issues and the complaints that a vehicle has. But I love you all very much. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and goodbye.